Remember when our grandparents could stretch a dollar until it screamed? The Great Depression forced American families to become masters of resourcefulness, turning necessity into an art form that modern preppers and frugal living enthusiasts are just now rediscovering. Today, we're exploring 25 ingenious Depression-era life hacks that transformed survival into sustainability and could save you thousands of dollars in today's economy. Let's start with the flour sack revolution. During the 1930s, flour and feed companies discovered something remarkable happening with their packaging. Women across America were transforming simple flour sacks into dresses, curtains, dish towels, and even underwear. When manufacturers caught on, they began printing their sacks with colorful patterns and designs, essentially providing free fabric with every purchase. A typical family could save the modern equivalent of $500 per year just on clothing materials. Women would carefully pick apart the seams, wash out the printing with kerosene or lye soap, and create entire wardrobes from these versatile cotton sacks. Children's school clothes, kitchen aprons, quilts, and even wedding dresses emerged from what would today be considered trash. The practice became so widespread that by 1939, over 3 million women and children were wearing flour sack garments. Some families would coordinate their flour purchases to collect matching patterns for complete outfits. The National Museum of American History now displays several of these ingenious creations, testament to an era when creativity trumped consumption. This single hack addressed multiple needs: clothing, bedding, and household textiles, all while ensuring nothing went to waste. Newspaper insulation techniques. Before modern insulation existed, Depression-era families discovered that newspapers provided remarkable thermal protection at virtually no cost. Families would stuff newspapers between walls, under floorboards, and in attics, creating dead air spaces that dramatically improved their home's heat retention. The technique was so effective that a properly newspaper-insulated room could maintain temperatures 10 to 15 degrees warmer than uninsulated spaces. People layered newspapers under carpets and rugs for extra floor insulation, wrapped them around hot water pipes to prevent freezing, and even wore them inside clothing during brutal winters. The Chicago Tribune reported in 1933 that newspaper insulation could reduce heating costs by up to 40%. Families would save newspapers year-round, treating them as valuable resources rather than waste. They discovered that crumpled paper worked better than flat sheets, creating more air pockets for insulation. Some ingenious homeowners created removable newspaper panels for windows, providing nighttime insulation that could be removed during sunny days. The practice extended beyond homes. Farmers wrapped newspaper around young plants to protect them from frost, and travelers stuffed it in their shoes to keep their feet warm. Modern studies have confirmed what Depression-era families knew instinctively. Newspapers' cellular structure and air-trapping capabilities make it a surprisingly effective insulator, comparable to some commercial materials costing hundreds of dollars. Victory Garden Food Preservation Systems. Victory Gardens weren't just about growing food. They represented complete self-sufficiency systems that could feed a family year-round. The average Depression-era Victory Garden produced 40% of a family's vegetables on just 400 square feet of land. Families developed intricate preservation schedules, timing their plantings so different crops matured in succession, ensuring continuous harvests from April through November. Root cellaring became an art form, with families learning that potatoes stored best at 35-40 degrees, while squash needed warmer conditions around 50-55 degrees. They discovered that apples gave off ethylene gas that caused other produce to ripen quickly, so they stored them separately. Canning reached industrial efficiency in home kitchens, with women processing hundreds of jars annually using pressure canners that cost the equivalent of $300 today, but saved thousands in food costs. The Ball Corporation reported selling over 140 million canning jars in 1931 alone. Families preserved everything: green beans, tomatoes, corn, fruits, jams, jellies, pickles, relishes, and even meats. They learned that adding a tablespoon of vinegar to canning water prevented mineral deposits on jars, and that processing times varied with altitude. Community canning centers emerged where families could share equipment and knowledge. The USDA estimated that home food preservation saved families $400–600 annually in 1930s dollars, equivalent to $7,000 or $10,000 today. Soap making from kitchen scraps. Every bit of cooking fat, bacon grease, and meat drippings was saved in coffee cans for soap making, a process that could save families the modern equivalent of $300–400 annually. The basic recipe required just 3 ingredients: saved fat, lye made from wood ash, and water. Families would accumulate fats for months, clarifying them by boiling with water and skimming off impurities. The soap-making process, typically done twice yearly, would yield enough soap for all household needs: laundry, bathing, dishes, and cleaning. Women discovered that different fats produced different soap qualities. Lard made the hardest, longest-lasting bars, while chicken fat created softer, more moisturizing soap. They added garden herbs like lavender or mint for scent, oatmeal for exfoliation, or honey for moisture. The process required precise measurements and timing. Too much lye created harsh, burning soap, while too little resulted in greasy, ineffective bars. Experienced soap makers could tell by the trace pattern when stirring whether the batch would succeed. Some families sold or traded excess soap, creating small home businesses. The soap was so concentrated and effective that one bar could last weeks with proper care. People learned to cure soap for at least 4 weeks before use, improving its hardness and cleaning power. This single skill eliminated the need to purchase dozens of different cleaning products. The complete animal utilization system. When a family butchered an animal during the Depression, absolutely nothing went to waste in ways that would astound modern consumers. A single pig could provide meat for months, plus dozens of other household necessities worth hundreds of dollars. Beyond the obvious cuts of meat, families rendered fat into lard for cooking and baking, saving $50–75 yearly on store-bought shortening. Organ meats became delicacies. Liver, heart, kidneys, and even brains provided crucial nutrients often lacking in Depression-era diets. Blood was collected for blood sausage or pudding, AIC. Protein-rich food that required no refrigeration when properly prepared. Bones were boiled multiple times, first for rich soup stocks, then reboiled for secondary broths, and finally ground into bone meal fertilizer for gardens. Intestines became sausage casings, saving the cost of store-bought versions. Pig skin was turned into cracklings, a crunchy snack that also rendered more cooking fat. Feet became pickled delicacies or were boiled down for gelatin. Even the bladder was cleaned and used as a storage container for lard. Hair and bristles were saved for brushes. Hide was tanned for leather goods. Chickens provided feathers for pillows and quilts, saving $20–30 per bedding item. This complete utilization meant a family could extract the equivalent of $1,500–2,000 in modern value from a single large animal. Clothing reconstruction and remake culture. Depression-era seamstresses developed techniques for completely reconstructing garments that would put modern fashion designers to shame. A man's worn suit could be taken apart and remade into a boy's suit with enough fabric left over for a girl's skirt. Women would carefully unpick seams, press fabric flat, and create new pattern pieces, essentially getting 2 or 3 garments from one. The process required intimate knowledge of fabric grain, pattern matching, and construction techniques. Adult coats were transformed into children's entire winter wardrobes. Worn shirt collars and cuffs were removed, reversed, and reattached, doubling the shirt's life. Women created combination garments, where a dress bodice could button onto different skirts, creating multiple outfit options from minimal pieces. They developed ingenious patching techniques that turned repairs into decorative elements, using contrasting fabrics to create geometric designs or applique patterns. Sweaters were unraveled and reknitted into new garments, with worn areas like elbows strategically placed in less stress areas of the new piece. Buttons were carefully saved and sorted. A proper button box could save a family $20–30 yearly. Zippers, rare and expensive, were carefully removed from worn garments and reinstalled in new ones. This remake culture meant a family of 4 could maintain a complete wardrobe on less than $50 annually, compared to hundreds needed for new clothes. Root cellaring without a cellar. Families without access to traditional root cellars developed ingenious alternatives that preserved vegetables through entire winters without refrigeration. The clamp method involved piling vegetables like potatoes and turnips on a bed of straw, covering them with more straw, then earth, creating mini underground storage units in backyards. These clamps could maintain steady temperatures between 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit all winter. Window wells were converted into cold storage by installing shelves and insulated covers, taking advantage of below-grade temperatures. Families discovered that different vegetables required different storage conditions. Carrots and beets needed high humidity and could be packed in damp sand, while onions and garlic required dry, well-ventilated spaces. They created apple barrels by wrapping individual apples in newspaper and storing them in wooden barrels in unheated rooms, extending apple availability by 4–6 months. Cabbage was stored by pulling up entire plants with roots intact and hanging them upside down in cool areas. Green tomatoes were wrapped individually in newspaper and stored in cool, dark places where they'd slowly ripen over weeks. Some families dug trenches, lined them with straw, filled them with vegetables, and covered them with boards and earth, creating accessible winter storage. These methods could preserve 500–800 pounds of produce through winter, saving the equivalent of $2,000–3,000 in modern grocery costs. Multi-purpose vinegar solutions. Vinegar became the Swiss Army knife of Depression-era households, replacing dozens of expensive commercial products. At roughly 10 cents per gallon when bought in bulk, vinegar could save families the modern equivalent of $500–700 annually on household products. White vinegar cleaned windows better than commercial cleaners, removed mineral deposits from coffee pots and tea kettles, and dissolved soap scum from bathtubs. Mixed with baking soda, it unclogged drains without expensive plumbers. Apple cider vinegar served as hair rinse, making hair shinier while removing soap residue and treating dandruff. It was used as fabric softener in laundry, preventing static and removing detergent residue. Families discovered vinegar could remove rust stains from fabric, set dyes to prevent fading, and remove perspiration stains from clothing. In the kitchen, vinegar preserved foods through pickling, extending vegetable availability by months. It tenderized tough meat cuts when used as marinade, making cheaper cuts palatable. Medicinally, vinegar treated everything from sunburn to sore throats, replacing numerous pharmacy remedies. It repelled ants and fruit flies without toxic pesticides. Farmers used it to clean and disinfect chicken coops and animal quarters. The antibacterial properties we now scientifically understand were utilized intuitively. Some families even made their own vinegar from apple cores and peelings, creating a virtually free cleaning and preservation arsenal. Bread science and stretching. Depression-era bakers developed techniques to make bread more filling, longer lasting, and incredibly economical, with a single loaf stretching to feed a family for multiple meals. They discovered that adding mashed potatoes to bread dough not only used up leftover potatoes, but created a moister loaf that stayed fresh days longer than regular bread. A tablespoon of vinegar added to milk would create buttermilk substitute for tender biscuits. Bakers learned to stretch bread by adding cooked oatmeal, cornmeal, or even sawdust in desperate times, increasing volume while maintaining nutrition. The heel ends of bread loaves were never wasted. They became French toast, bread pudding, stuffing, or were dried into breadcrumbs for later use. Stale bread was revived by sprinkling with water and heating in the oven, making it almost fresh again. Women discovered that bread dough could be refrigerated for up to a week, allowing them to bake fresh portions daily without making new dough. They created depression bread recipes using no eggs, butter, or milk, relying on chemical leavening and creative substitutions. Bread wasn't just food, it was currency, with housewives trading loaves for eggs, milk, or services. The ability to produce a good loaf could mean the difference between hunger and satisfaction, with skilled bakers able to feed a family of 6 on less than $1 worth of ingredients weekly. Water conservation and reuse systems. Water wasn't taken for granted during the Depression, and families developed elaborate systems to use every drop multiple times. Dishwater was saved for watering gardens, but only after it cooled to avoid shocking plant roots. The gray water from laundry was filtered through sand and charcoal and reused for washing floors or flushing toilets. Families discovered that soapy water actually helped control certain garden pests, making dishwater valuable for more than just irrigation. Rainwater collection became systematic, with every downspout directed into barrels or cisterns. This soft rainwater was prized for washing hair and delicate fabrics, as it required less soap than hard well water. Bathwater followed a strict hierarchy: father first, then mother, then children, oldest to youngest, with the same water serving everyone. The final bathwater was still saved for washing pets or scrubbing floors. Ice blocks from winter were stored in sawdust-insulated ice houses, providing cooling through summer without electricity. The meltwater from these ice blocks was collected and used for drinking, being naturally filtered and pure. Toilets were flushed with buckets of saved water rather than using the tank mechanism. Some families installed hand pumps in kitchens to avoid wasting water, waiting for taps to run hot or cold. These conservation methods could reduce water usage by 60–70%, crucial when water had to be hand-pumped or carried from wells. Bartering networks and value systems. The barter economy that emerged during the Depression created sophisticated value systems that operated entirely without cash. Communities developed informal exchange rates where everyone understood that a dozen eggs equaled a pound of butter, or that 3 hours of farm labor was worth a bushel of apples. These networks operated on trust and reputation. Failing to honor a barter agreement meant exclusion from the system. Families kept detailed ledgers tracking trades, ensuring fairness over time, even if individual trades weren't exactly equal. Skills became currency. A woman who could sew traded alterations for groceries, while a man with mechanical knowledge fixed cars for meat and vegetables. Children participated by trading labor like lawn mowing or babysitting for movie tickets or candy. Some communities created barter books, listing what each family could offer and needed, essentially creating primitive classified ads. Professional services joined the barter economy, with doctors accepting chickens for house calls and teachers tutoring for garden produce. Churches and community centers hosted swap meets, where families could trade goods directly. The system taught valuable lessons about true value versus monetary price. A warm coat might trade for significantly more than its cash value in winter. These networks provided social safety nets, ensuring no family went completely without necessities. Economists estimate that barter transactions equaled 20–30% of economic activity in rural areas during the Depression's worst years. Darning and invisible mending. The art of darning and invisible mending reached extraordinary heights during the Depression, with skilled menders able to repair holes and tears so perfectly they were undetectable. Women learned to weave new threads through worn fabric, essentially recreating the original weave pattern. This wasn't simple patching, but reconstructive textile work that could extend a garment's life by years. The technique required understanding different fabric structures. Plain weave, twill, and knit each needed different approaches. Darning eggs or mushrooms, smooth wooden tools shaped to stretch fabric taut, became treasured household items. Women discovered that pulling threads from hidden seams provided perfect color matches for visible repairs. They developed Swiss darning for knitwear, duplicating the knit stitches so precisely that repairs were invisible. Preventive darning strengthened areas before they wore through, particularly heels and elbows. Some women became so skilled they took in mending for pay, earning the equivalent of $150 monthly. The Ladies' Home Journal published detailed darning instructions, and schools taught it as essential curriculum. A well-maintained darning basket with various thread colors, needles, and tools was a mark of a competent housewife. This single skill could save a family $200–300 annually on clothing replacement. Modern fashion designers now study Depression-era mending techniques as examples of sustainable fashion practices. Coffee and tea stretching techniques. Coffee and tea were precious commodities that families learned to extend far beyond modern usage rates. Coffee grounds were reused 2 or 3 times, with the first brewing for adults, second for older children mixed with milk, and third for cleaning or garden fertilizer. Families discovered that adding a pinch of salt to reused grounds reduced bitterness. Chicory root, dandelion root, and roasted grain became coffee substitutes or extenders, with some families developing preferred blends that they continued using even after the Depression. Tea bags were dried and reused multiple times, with some families getting a week's worth of tea from a single bag. Loose tea was stretched by adding dried mint, sassafras, or other garden herbs, creating unique family blends. The used tea leaves were then scattered on carpets before sweeping to collect dust and add fragrance. Some families made sun tea by placing minimal tea in glass jars with water and sunlight, extracting maximum flavor from less product. Coffee and tea substitutes were made from roasted acorns, barley, and even okra seeds. The ritual of coffee or tea time became more important than the strength of the beverage, with families gathering daily regardless of how weak the brew. These stretching techniques meant a pound of coffee could last a month instead of a week, saving the equivalent of $30 to $40 monthly. Homemade cosmetics and toiletries. Depression era. Women created entire beauty routines from kitchen ingredients, saving hundreds of dollars annually, while often achieving better results than store-bought products. Cold cream was made from mineral oil and beeswax, costing pennies compared to commercial versions. Beet juice became lip and cheek stain, providing natural color that lasted hours. Cornstarch replaced expensive face powder, while burned matches created emergency mascara. Egg whites tightened facial skin better than expensive astringents, while egg yolks conditioned hair to salon-quality softness. Mayonnaise became a deep conditioning hair treatment, olive oil removed makeup, and oatmeal ground fine created gentle facial scrubs. Women discovered that beer rinses added body to limp hair, while vinegar rinses made it shine. Baking soda whitened teeth and served as deodorant. Vaseline, one of the few purchased items, served dozens of purposes: lip gloss, eyebrow tamer, cuticle cream, and even perfume base when mixed with flower petals. Lemon juice lightened age spots and freckles while tightening pores. Sugar mixed with oil created body scrubs. Rose petals soaked in alcohol became rose water toner. Some women started cottage businesses making and selling these preparations. The focus shifted from covering flaws to enhancing natural health and beauty through proper care. These homemade preparations often worked better than commercial products because they lacked harsh chemicals and preservatives. Shoe preservation and repair. Shoes represented major investments that families protected fiercely, developing techniques to extend footwear life by years. Cardboard insoles were replaced monthly, preventing wear to the actual shoe bottom. Newspaper stuffed in toes maintained shape and absorbed moisture. Families learned that alternating between two pairs of shoes made both last longer than wearing one pair continuously. Vaseline rubbed into leather weekly prevented cracking and repelled water. Metal taps were added to heels and toes, areas that wore fastest. Children's shoes were bought large and stuffed with paper until grown into. When soles wore through, cardboard or rubber from old tires was cut to fit and glued inside. Shoe polish was made from soot mixed with lard when commercial polish was unaffordable. Baking soda sprinkled inside eliminated odors and absorbed moisture. Canvas shoes were washed carefully and reshaped while drying to prevent shrinkage. Laces were replaced with string or strips of fabric when they broke. Some families learned basic cobbling, re-zoling shoes themselves with leather from old belts or purses. The shoe last, an anvil-shaped form, became essential household equipment. Professional shoe repair cost about 50 cents, but families who mastered home repair saved $20–30 annually. Well-maintained shoes could last 5 years instead of 1, representing hundreds of dollars in savings. Natural pest control methods. Without money for commercial pesticides, Depression-era families developed remarkably effective natural pest control methods using common household items. Cucumber peels repelled ants, while bay leaves deterred cockroaches. Diatomaceous earth from crushed fossils killed bedbugs and fleas without poisoning humans or pets. Families discovered that planting marigolds around gardens repelled numerous insects while attracting beneficial ones. Soap spray made from dissolved lye soap killed aphids and mites on contact. Wood ash sprinkled around plants prevented slug and snail damage. Mothballs were made from cedar chips and lavender, protecting woolens without chemicals. Mice were deterred with peppermint oil-soaked cotton balls placed in problem areas. Fly paper was made from tree resin and castor oil spread on brown paper. Wasps were trapped in jars, baited with sugar water and vinegar. Mosquitoes were repelled by burning citronella grass or sage. Some families raised guinea fowl, which consumed enormous quantities of ticks and other pests. Companion planting became scientific, with families learning which plants naturally repelled specific pests. These methods required more observation and prevention than modern pesticides, but were ultimately more sustainable. The techniques were so effective that many organic farmers today use identical methods. Families saved $50–100 annually on pest control while avoiding dangerous chemicals around food and children. Entertainment and toy making. Depression-era families created rich entertainment cultures without spending money, developing creativity and skills that provided lifelong benefits. Corn husk dolls required only dried husks and string, but provided hours of imaginative play. Boys carved elaborate toys from wood scraps, tops, whistles, boats, and even working trains. Marbles were made from clay, rolled and baked hard. Jump ropes came from worn-out clotheslines. Stilts were crafted from timber scraps and tin cans. Board games were drawn on cardboard with buttons or beans as pieces. Playing cards were made from stiff paper when store-bought decks wore out. Families created elaborate puppet shows with sock puppets or paper bag characters. Musical instruments emerged from household items. Washboards, spoons, jugs, and tissue paper-covered combs formed family bands. Radio programs were free entertainment, with families gathering nightly for favorite shows. Children created elaborate games with minimal equipment, kick-the-can, hide-and-seek variations, and marble tournaments. Reading aloud became evening entertainment, with families sharing single books chapter by chapter. Community talent shows, spelling bees, and box socials provided free social entertainment. Dance instruction was traded between families, with barn dances requiring only volunteer musicians. These homemade entertainments fostered creativity, social skills, and family bonding that expensive commercial entertainment couldn't match. The emphasis on creation over consumption developed problem-solving skills and self-reliance. Medicine chest from the garden. Every Depression-era garden contained a pharmacy section where families grew medicinal plants that replaced expensive drugstore remedies. Willow bark tea, containing natural aspirin, treated headaches and fever. Echinacea boosted immune systems during cold season. Calendula petals healed cuts and burns better than many commercial ointments. Peppermint settled stomachs and aided digestion. Chamomile tea calmed nerves and promoted sleep. Comfrey leaves, applied as poultices, healed bruises and sprains remarkably quickly. Feverfew prevented migraines when taken regularly. Plantain leaves drew out bee stings and splinters. Mullein leaves, smoked or made into tea, eased respiratory problems. Valerian root provided natural sedation for anxiety. Families maintained detailed herbals, noting which plants treated which conditions, proper dosages, and preparation methods. Tinctures were made by soaking herbs in alcohol, creating concentrated medicines that lasted years. Salves combined herbs with lard or beeswax for topical applications. Some women became community healers, trading herbal knowledge for goods and services. While not replacing serious medical care, these remedies handled routine ailments effectively. The cost savings were substantial. A garden pharmacy could replace $100–200 in annual drugstore purchases. Modern pharmaceutical companies have validated many of these traditional remedies, with numerous drugs derived from the same plants Depression-era families cultivated. Window box farming. Urban families without yard space developed intensive window box agriculture that could produce surprising amounts of food. A single sunny window could support boxes yielding pounds of tomatoes, peppers, lettuce, and herbs annually. Families learned that vertical growing, training plants up strings or stakes, maximized limited space. Succession planting meant harvesting lettuce while tomato seedlings grew, beneath getting multiple crops from the same box. Kitchen scraps became potting soil when composted in small bins under sinks. Potato plants grew in boxes with sides that could be added as plants grew, yielding pounds of potatoes from square feet of space. Creative containers included old drawers, wooden crates, and even worn-out boots. Drainage was achieved with pebbles or broken pottery pieces. Families discovered that south-facing fire escapes could support entire mini gardens. Some apartment buildings allowed rooftop gardens where families collectively grew food. Window box gardens provided fresh vegetables worth $200–300 annually, while improving air quality and providing psychological benefits of growing things. The techniques developed during the Depression influenced modern urban farming movements. Children learned food production and responsibility by tending window boxes. These micro-gardens proved that lack of land need not mean lack of fresh food. The fresh herbs alone saved significant money while improving meal quality. Gleaning and foraging culture. Families supplemented diets extensively through gleaning and foraging, ancient practices that experienced revival during the Depression. After commercial harvest, farmers allowed locals to glean remaining crops, with single gleaning days yielding bushels of potatoes, corn, or fruit. Families learned to identify dozens of edible wild plants: dandelions for salads and wine, purslane for vegetables, wild onions for seasoning, blackberries for preserves, nuts for protein, and mushrooms for meat substitutes. Children were taught plant identification early, understanding which plants were edible, medicinal, or dangerous. Seasonal calendars tracked when different foods were available: spring greens, summer berries, fall nuts, winter rose hips. Acorns were processed into flour after leaching out tannins. Wild grape leaves were preserved for dolmas. Elder flowers became cordial while elderberries made medicine. Families developed territories and ethics around foraging, never taking more than 1/3 of any plant colony. The knowledge passed between generations orally, with grandmothers teaching children during gathering expeditions. Some families specialized in particular wild foods, trading their surplus for other necessities. Urban foraging included gathering produce discarded by markets for cosmetic reasons. These practices could provide 10–20% of a family's food needs at no cost beyond time and knowledge. Modern foraging movements trace directly to Depression-era practices, recognizing the abundance of food growing wild. Repair cafe culture. Before throwaway culture existed, every neighborhood had informal repair networks where broken items were fixed rather than replaced. These weren't businesses, but cooperative arrangements where people with specific skills helped neighbors maintain possessions. The electrically inclined fixed radios and lamps, seamstresses mended everything fabric, mechanically minded folks repaired bicycles and tools. Payment was usually in trade or future favors rather than cash. Community centers hosted repair days where experts taught skills while fixing items. Libraries loaned tools along with books. Schools taught practical repair skills as core curriculum. Boys learned woodworking and mechanics, while girls mastered sewing and mending. Every home maintained basic repair supplies: glue, wire, string, patches, and simple tools. Furniture was reglued, rewoven, and refinished repeatedly. Broken china was repaired with flour and milk glue or metal staples. Umbrellas were recovered, watches repaired, fountain pens refilled. The phrase, "use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without," guided daily decisions. This repair culture meant families could maintain middle-class lifestyles on poverty wages. A broken radio that might cost $25 to replace could be fixed for 50 cents in parts. The skills learned during the Depression created a generation of competent fixers who could maintain almost anything. Modern repair cafes consciously recreate these Depression-era community repair networks. Thanks for joining us on this trip down memory lane. If you enjoyed learning about these 25 Depression-era life hacks, give it a like and share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe.